Hello and welcome. You're listening to You Should Ask My Sister, a podcast about siblingship and friendship. We are your hosts, Stephanie and Melissa Erdis, and Liz is going to tell you what we are talking about today.
Yeah, thanks. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Steph, and all of our listeners. That's
Thank
what we're going to
you.
talk about today. So we wrapped up a year, and it was a year, and we're headed into the new one. We waited a couple days into the new year to get settled, and I'm back in Georgia, and really, I spent my days reflecting on 2020. So we want to dive into that. I think it's important before you move into anything new year, new job, to reflect on the past, not just close the past, but reflect and take good things from it and go forward and develop your new future. And so a couple of things I want to touch on before we get there. We're going to go through some of our, we'll call them resolutions, some of our goals, what 2020 meant to us. But you hear it all the time, and I'm a marketer, so I love a good gimmick line, but I am just not a fan of New Year, New Me. And Steph knows this. I'm not.
That's because you like you. That's because you, yeah, right? I wish you could see the look on Melissa's face when I said that. She was like, yes, it's because I already like me. I don't need a new me.
100%. I really like me. And I'm not perfect, but everyone should. And I would love for people to get into that state where it's not new year, new me. And I'm going to talk a little bit about goal setting, but you're setting yourself up for failure because there's so many good things about you. There's so many good things about you. And so what I recommend as you're writing goals, and this was what I did this year, is to not start out with, here are all the things I need to accomplish in 2021. Here are all the things I want to change about myself. I took time and I wrote down, here are all the things I love about myself.
Did you really make a list of what you love about yourself?
It was long, I'm not going to lie. But
I love it. I'm glad you're going to share it. This podcast is going to be an hour of just Melissa talking about what she loves about herself.
So due to time, I'm actually not going to cover it. But this is an activity for everyone else. Think through, like, these are the things I really liked about either last year or what I'm really good at. Like for Steph, she should put, if she feels this way, because I know I do, I'm a really supportive sister. I'm a good communicator. I'm like, and then when you then get to, and here are the things I'd love to create a different future for. Here are the things I would like to advance, whether it be weight or relationship or eating habits or working out. You're reading all the good things first and you're setting yourself up for success. So you're like, I accomplish all these other things. And with this power, I'll be able to accomplish all these other things and just make a better me, the me I want to be. So that's my tagline for 2021. New year, me I want to be.
Okay. New year, me I want to be. Was this at all inspired by you watching Wonder Woman 1984?
I love Wonder Woman, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I know. Is that one of the things on your list?
That was my New Year's Eve because I just got back to Georgia and I watched Wonder Woman because I really like kick-ass movies, and it was really just thinking through, how can I set goals that aren't going to fall through in a couple weeks. And I want to help other people make goals where it's not like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in the first 2 weeks of 2021. That just sounds painful and not like a true goal. We need to figure out how to do that and how to structure a life change around it to be able to continue throughout the year. And everyone can do that because they're a good mother, they're a supportive sibling, they're a good child, they are active in their work, they're active in their church, they're all these things that you really like about yourself and you do well. Bring those into 2021. Reflect on those, manifest those, and with that power, start thinking through, here are the few things I really want to change to become the best version of me.
I like it. Thanks for starting us off with that.
So here's a list of everything I love about me. No, just
I'm just gonna, you have to tell us a couple things on the list. So I know the list is long, and I know you spent a lot of the last couple of days by yourself after quarantining from us being in Pennsylvania. But tell us a couple of things on your list.
I will. I was gonna do it a little bit later, but we can kind of maybe jump into the section where we're talking about a few things that Steph and I are taking from 2020, what we have learned into 2021. And for me, professionally, my ability to be agile has been so vital for this year. I always kind of knew I was because I've done a lot in marketing. Fortunately, I've had the pathway to do that and I've been enabled. But my job had 3 huge significant changes this year. And I felt successful at all 3 of them. And they were very, very, very different. And I felt really accomplished in that. And I think it's important. There's a lot of people that are very resistant to change. And being able to be agile through that, I really liked that.
Good, cool. So we want to talk a little bit, and this is what you're kind of dragging us into. I'm not dragging us. That was the wrong verb. I don't know why I used the word dragging. Sorry. This is what you're launching us into is kind of the lessons we learned in 2020. So professionally, being agile, I think learning that lesson, I would agree that you're agile in personal situations too. Like, I think we had good examples. Like, I think especially mom was very agile. I think we have other like family member mentors who are agile and good in those kind of crises situations. So we have really good examples. Anything else in 2020 that you learned professionally?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of things. Like I've said, the time I've spent in Georgia has been a lot of my job has required extensive travel. I can use extensive because it really was. I was on, I think I counted up 14 different flights in January and February just in 2020 alone. It was a go environment. When I wasn't on the road, I was in the office at 7:30 in the morning, 9-10 hours every single day. And the pause button that was hit really changed my perspective of how important flexibility is. I was always working everywhere, a hotel, a hallway, a plane, like wherever. But my ability to still master some accomplishments, like the back half of 2020, I'm still tallying up some results that I've done. And I did that from my apartment, the floor of my dad's house, my friend's coffee table. It really goes to show you that, you shouldn't be judged by your hours tethered to an office. It's by your accomplishments. And being able to work through that flexibility and embrace it, because I was not someone that was leaving the office like, woohoo. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to entertain myself? Like, this isn't me. I've always been running, and I really embraced the flexibility and made it work for me.
Excellent. What did you learn personally, do you think, in 2020?
I think for me, a lot. There were, I think everyone can say there was ups and downs. I had a big revelation, and it was my breaking point. Not breaking is like soft, but a really down spot for me was at the end of May. We had been through this for a long time. I was only in my apartment. Work was changing, and I spent a lot of time reflecting on why I wasn't able to understand or control the anxiety I was feeling. And just that time and reflecting that made me realize that I don't have like one singular focus or trigger of anxiety. It's multiple. And spending a lot of time like analyzing, like, why do I feel this way? How did I feel this way? How do I trigger it? How do I isolate it? How do I work through it? That was really important for me at the end of May, and something I've always worked through anxiety and have been on a journey for years, but this was so different. And I think that moment in time helped me realize that I'll never be done reflecting on, where I am in a current state and how I can get past it.
It's just more like a journey. Like,
yeah.
a practice. Like they talk about like yoga and meditation and being a practice. So just more of a practice than anything else.
Yeah. Just self-reflection it will never stop being important for me. So I know you had changes in your work style. What did you learn professionally?
So we did have changes. I left my office on the 12th of March and I have not been back. And so here we are, the beginning of January. I have not seen the inside of my office, which I went to 4 days a week. I worked from home 1 day a week. So yeah, we transitioned to almost completely remote work. I work for a nonprofit, and it it was great, and it continues to be great. It's not a permanent state. Like we eventually have to go back into the world, but one of the things I think professionally that I really appreciated and learned is we had to learn new things quickly, new technologies. We do training. So I went from not knowing how to use Zoom at all, and within a week's time I had to know how to master it not only for myself, but my staff and then our constituents, like the people that we work with, beyond our nonprofit, like the people we serve. And we did that with several platforms. I did that with Zoom. I did that with Google. I did that with Adobe Connect. I did that with an online training program called Articulate. So I really liked the learning of new things and learning of new ways to connect. And I am an idea factory. So it was like, okay, here's our challenge. Let's just keep coming up with ideas. Let's free think, free think, free think. And then let's start putting those ideas into solutions, and really got to do that in much different ways at the beginning of the pandemic, and then have sustained it to this point, and we'll be looking at sustaining it even more into 2021. And I feel much more confident going into 2021 that we can adjust and sustain for as long as we need to. I was just talking about the vaccine earlier this week. Maybe March, maybe June, maybe September. Like there's still a lot of uncertainty, and that is not something I'm worried about with professionally, with the team that I'm working with and the skills that we've acquired. So I got the book Untamed. Thank you. It was from you, I know. By by Glennon Doyle, and I've been reading it, and she has this slogan that she borrowed from a teacher that she used to teach with early in her career, and it's, we can do hard things. And I think that was just like a real slogan for 2020, and I really kind of embraced like the learning of new things professionally. And kind of personally / professionally, I really like working from home a lot. All those things you said, from like I was doing it from my house, and I was working from, the floor of my dad's living room and the coffee table of my friend's house. I really liked working from the second floor office that overlooks my street, my residential street, seeing people walking their dogs. I really like working from home. So professionally, I've really enjoyed those things, and kind of mastering some of those skills.
Yeah, I did too, and I can tell you, I did not think I would, because I'm not someone who likes to be. I don't binge watch TV. I don't like. I'm an active person, does a lot, and what I'm able to accomplish in a day at home, I didn't realize was going to be the case. And so, one thing I would definitely take from 2020 is an accomplishment of what I've been able to do virtually. And I think, like, I think just corporations and organizations in general have felt that, because the uncertainty that is still looming is less uncertain, because we know that we can show up.
Well, and I really hope that organizations, your organization, my organization, are very different, but we both have people working from home. I hope that they really consider that, because I think we have been as much, if not more productive as a team working from home than we were in our offices. Part of our work involves physical travel. So you might spend 3 hours in the car, and then you end up working 4 hours at the destination where you're training or where you're going to meetings. That 3 hours in a car is now work, because we're not traveling to those things. I have a statewide meeting tomorrow morning that would normally have had to travel 2.5 hours to attend. And now I have 2.5 hours to work on grant reports instead, because
Yeah.
I won't be in the car. So I'm hoping that when we do go back to in-person work that we consider some of what we've learned in 2020. I think one of the things you did too that mastered the work from home is you had a really like professional routine. Like I do this and then I work out and then I get a snack at this time. And I think mine was not quite the same. I wasn't able to do that quite the same, but I tried to do things like schedule my lunch break and things like that. But your routine was, I think, part of your productivity.
Yeah, I think that was really important to me too, because in one of the changes, I was realigned to a team where most of my team is West Coast. And I'm a very like early to the office person, and it's the middle of the night for them. And I didn't change my routine. I set an alarm. I get out of bed. I drink coffee. I watch 15 minutes of the Today Show. I turn on my computer. Like I do the exact same thing. And I do work, like the actual activities of work before my other teammates get online, and I always make sure I schedule at least an hour for physical activity, which is something I wasn't always capable of doing when I was on the road or traveling or in an office. And that routine has really helped me stay very productive too, and I hold myself accountable to that.
Excellent. I think personally, similar for me in 2020 is professionally, I like learning things and I've really reconnected with that. So personally, I was like, should talk about gratitude, but 2020 did not bring about the gratitude gush that it did for everyone else. And I'm hoping that's just because I'm a really grateful person anyway, and I wasn't, taking things for granted, but I probably was. I mean, let's face it. But I really went into this like DIY mode, like make your own salad dressing. You can do that. I never thought before the pandemic, like I should make my own salad dressing. Like I was like, I'm just going to buy the 88-cent Zesty Italian because that's what I like. And, then I was like, actually, this is full of preservatives and I should probably, do something else. Salad dressing, not that hard to make. Pizza dough, not that hard to make. We did not, in the 10 months since the pandemic, we have bought one loaf of bread. Other than that, I have made all of our bread. Like starting almost the first week, I'm like, you can make bread, right? Like you just like make bread. And so we've been making all kinds of bread, salad dressing, pizza dough, like so just like kind of looking at what you consume and in a different way, I think is something that I'm bringing out personally. I'm also grateful for bread, pizza dough, and salad dressing. Like maybe that'll make up for me not going on the. I was like, oh, I should talk about how grateful 2020 made me. I am grateful, but really what I learned was how to do things that I didn't know that you could do. Simple things.
I don't know if I didn't know that that those just aren't things I'm going to do. I did, however, buy a hoverboard, buy a scooter, join TikTok, like really productive things. So I think we were both probably productive in very different ways.
I joined TikTok too. I think a lot of people join TikTok.
Because I work in social media, I saw the statistics and it skyrocketed. But also to your other point, so did Pinterest. Pinterest skyrocketed, and I love me some Pinterest. Like I totally do.
How do you think I learned how to do all those things? Yeah. Not a book, definitely Pinterest is how I learned to do that.
Exactly. So I think, and it benefited me because I work in social media and have for years to get on some of those apps, reconnecting to people. Something that I would like to take into years in the future is, we don't live with our friends and family, but we had more of a conscious effort to like send a letter or send a funny package or create a Zoom on a holiday or a text string or reaching out a little bit more. I feel like I've been a little bit crazy the last back half of the year, and especially today, and I've started today just reaching out to different people, like, and I'm not at like a Happy New Year, see you next year kind of like person, but I think this year it was important. So I've reached out to a couple people, mainly work people, starting this week, like, Happy New Year. You good? Like, you good? You ready for this?
Yeah, I think that checking in with people has a much different feel when you're doing extended telework like we are. I've had to think of different ways to do that because before you just like saw them, you could just like wave to them and be like, hey. So if someone was a little off or struggling with something or something was going on in their life, maybe sick parent or a sick pet or, their kid going off to kindergarten, you knew those things much more organically than you do now. So yeah, that check-in I think is really important, both personally and professionally. Because same thing, you'd see someone at happy hour, you'd see someone at a birthday party or an event, and now we're not doing those things. You'd see them at church. Like my church has been online for months. I have not physically seen those people in forever. So how they're actually doing, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I did some of that last year. I want to definitely increase it this year. I think we're also in a space where it's very accepted and welcome for someone to be like, no, I'm not good. Like, okay, cool. Tell me why. Let me tell you all the reasons why, you're going to make it through this, and to be able to hype each other, where I think a lot of people concealed things before and we're just like, yep, I'm fine. It's okay to not be okay. And if we can take something through the future, let's embrace that.
Do you think people are going to learn? Because this is something that I feel like I'm trying to hold on to from 2020 is, do you think people are going to learn to like slow down, take a minute, like you were talking about, reflect? Do you think that, like, I mean, I know you and I are talking about that, but do you think other folks are going to do that too? Because I feel like there's a large conversation about self-care, taking the time that you need. And I'm like, why weren't we doing that before? I mean, I know why, like technically, but like, wow, why did it take a pandemic for us to learn those lessons?
I guess the why, I'm not sure. The if that people will, I really, really hope so. I can't say enough for self-reflection. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't. And that is a form of meditation for me, to be like, why am I feeling this way? What caused it? What can I do to get through it? And not blaming myself for feeling that way, not seeking information through social media, not measuring myself against anyone else, just really sitting in like, all right, this is where I'm at. This is why. This is where I want to be. And if I could give anyone, that would be one of my big advice. The second is, and it seems so minimal, get yourself on a sleep schedule. I hear more and more that people like, and I get it. If there's someone that understands anxiety, and you can question me if you want, but it's been an absolute lifelong pursuit of mine to understand and live with anxiety. I am mentally well the days I am because I'm on a sleep schedule. I sleep. It's so important.
Yeah. The one thing, maybe one day we'll talk about like getting older, since we are like
Why?
on the cusp of, but I think like the great things about getting older, we're like on the cusp of middle age. I didn't want to say we were middle aged and have you like stop the podcast and like walk out.
Hit eject.
Yeah,
We're on the cusp
like,
of getting older.
We're on the cusp of middle age.
Someone needs to
Firmly.
tell me that. Someone needs to tell me that more often.
I feel like because you're the youngest, like you're never gonna feel old. Like I feel like that's the blessing.
So I just had this like thought, because there are things that actually like still surprise me. Like people don't hype themselves all the time, or that like apparently people get an age and they stop playing like a kid. And I was telling my work people, I know, I was telling my, like, did anyone have any stories over the holidays? I'm like, yeah, well, I sled rided for 2 days and it was a blast, and it hurt way more than I was a kid. And when, I think it was my boss wrote back and she was like, I have no doubt you still play like a kid. And I was like, that is why Santa brought me a heating pad.
Santa stuff did bring you a heating pad. But I was thinking that too. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to get to an age and be like, I can't do that anymore. But one of the blessings of getting older is I sleep like a rock. Like I sleep so soundly sometimes. I wake up and I'm like, what decade is it? Like, and when I was younger, I did not sleep like that at all. Like, I was a very light sleeper, and now I'm such a heavy sleeper. So I like agree with you 100%. Like, get on a sleep schedule, sleep. And like, if you are having trouble sleeping, maybe you'll just turn 40 and you'll just sleep like a rock, because I turned 40 and got a weighted blanket, and I have had less sleep problems in the last 2 years because of it.
I'm just shocked by how many people that do have sleep problems. I think, and this will probably garner conversation because everyone has a different view. I didn't realize it, like, just started this week that it's been in several conversations. We were not allowed to have TVs in our room. And so I do not sleep with a TV. I do not have electronics after 10 p.m., mainly because I'm usually sleeping. And I get out of bed in the morning. It does not matter if I have something to do. I set an alarm. I get out of bed. I try to work out. I try to exhaust my body because I struggle with anxiety too, but I'm not on my phone till 3 in the morning. I'm not watching TV. Like, I cannot say enough of, like, if someone's really looking for some tools to help in 2021, whether it be mental or physical wellness, just like when you have a kid, like, get yourself on a sleep schedule. You deserve it.
Yeah, that's great advice. That is great advice. Yeah,
it's not easy, but
no.
What is? We can do hard things.
We can do, like Glennon Doyle and her teacher friend said, we can do hard things, or just we can do things. Like, we can do things, like make salad dressing and sleep. Anything else you're bringing in from 2020?
No, I don't. I mean, a lot of it kind of. So my goals for 2020, and I'm a goal-oriented person. I wrote them down. I cannot find them for the life of me, but I do remember some of them. I truly believe in SMART goals, and I am not an expert. If someone has trouble setting goals and, like, can never reach them, and just it's not your thing, and you really want to learn, reach out to me, because I have someone who is very skilled in what's called a SMART goal. And a SMART goal, I had to look it up. That's how much of an expert I am not. It is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So everything I set for my yearly, quarterly goals, I kind of break them up, are based around that. They're attainable, they're relevant. It's not a whole new me. What does that mean? And why would anyone want to do that? But for me, if we want to talk about, jump into, like, what specific goals or opportunities do we have? I always have, it's not a number goal, but as an example, before Steph and I went sled riding for exercise, we had coffee, and I don't know, I had 6 cookies. I don't know how many you had, but it was a lot.
Probably 6. I mean, we had a lot of cookies.
We were just like,
that's why we had to go sled riding.
Like, we did,
first of all, time out. We did 8,000 steps the one day that we did sled riding. So you can make fun of us all you want, but we had to get out of the house, and there was 18 inches of snow. So we had to do something.
It was a blast. And I think we probably worked off 4 of the cookies. So it's time for me to buckle down. And so I always have kind of like a calorie intake. I don't really like the word dry January, but for me, I reset with my liquid intake in general. I don't drink anything with calories. So it's black coffee, tea, water. For the first 2 months, it's not January. For the first 2 months last year, it was until St. Patrick's Day. So we were into quarantine before I had anything to drink. And it just sets me up for a good year. So that's one of my existing goals. And for me, I am going to double the amount of books that I read in 2020.
Are you going to read 2 books?
It's 4. Thank you very much.
4 books? Did you read 2 books in 2020?
Why are you questioning me?
I'm not. I'm just curious.
Okay, no one else can see your face. I can.
Oh, right. Sorry.
And I read
Untamed
and the Oprah book that you got me.
Did you read that in 2020?
Yeah, it was in January.
Oh,
so
that's right. I got it for you last Christmas. Yeah.
2 books. You got me another book for this Christmas. So I at least have one of the 4 picked out. So you can send me some recommendations. But 4 is a lofty goal for me. So make sure they're small. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. And another health goal, and I recommend this for whoever's on the cusp of aging. That was ridiculous. But I want to stick to a weight training 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good at it, which is funny because like I can lift. I say that I can lift a lot, but I'm looking at myself in this video and I dropped a table on my face this weekend and split my lip open. So apparently I need more than 3 days a week of weight training.
You need to tell people the whole story. Like, we can't just leave it there. So time out from her Happy New Year podcast, and Melissa's going to tell you about how she dropped a table on her face.
I mean,
Welcome to 2020.
It really was. Well, it started with an injury. A couple of my years have started with an injury. I just was putting a table together. I lifted it above my head and it smashed my lip and my tooth went through my lip. And so it's not that bad, but it is a little distracting because Steph and I can see each other in videos, and I'm talking about how strong I am, and I'm not seeing it reflected in this video. So I'm going to weight train at least 3 days a week, maybe more, given the state of my lip right now. And so I have those goals set in stone, but I don't like, it's not like January 1, I define all of my goals. And that's, I took a lot this weekend. I wrote like, here were some really big accomplishments last year. You know, congratulations, keep it up. I write this stuff to myself. Maybe this is why I have good self-esteem. And here are the things that I really want to work on this next year. Those 3 being the top 3 so far. So what are you thinking for some 2021 goals?
My 2020 and my 2021 don't really have goals. Like, I don't do the goal setting that you do because I really just set myself up for failure. Like, I have to do it a little differently. So I stopped doing like resolution type things a long time ago, and I usually just pick like something fun. Like, one year in my 20s, my resolution was to learn how to walk in high heels because I was like 23. I'd not worn high heels when I was like going to class in college, and I like got into the professional world, and I'm like, why are all these people wearing high heels? And so like that's what I did. I bought myself a couple pair of dress shoes and I learned to walk in them. So last year my goal, I didn't tell you this because you're going to be like, this is a stupid goal. It was to not buy any new clothes, like to only buy stuff that was like used, like to only buy like used or like sustainable clothing. And it was a great goal to have in 2020 because you couldn't go shopping for 10 months of the year. So the one exception I gave myself for that goal was workout clothes. Like, I was like, you should buy workout clothes that were brand new, but I bought them from like sustainable sources. So they were like made of like recycled water bottles and recycled cotton and stuff. That's what I did. I know that you're like, that is a silly goal.
Well, no. Let's unpack this for a second. If you made me talk about my lip, so if anyone thinks that Steph and I are very similar,
you just found out where we're not.
No, because I bought myself like 4 hoodies this week, and in my defense,
4 hoodies.
I have 4 new ones this week. In my defense, it is my business attire currently, so it's for my career. And
your hoodies, your business hoodies.
Second of all, I wouldn't even know. Let's just start with, there's no silly goal.
Okay.
There's no silly goal. It is your goal. I wouldn't even know how to do that. But I appreciate that not only did you do that, but you fulfilled it throughout the year. Congratulations to you. I'm sitting here in a brand new hoodie.
And the sweatshirt that I currently have on is from college. It's literally 20 years old. Your shirt's 20 hours old and mine's 20 years old.
It probably is about 20 hours old.
Yeah. So I want to keep that up, like just being very conscious of where I spend my money in general. Mm-hmm. And I was very inspired by, we got some really great gifts from local organizations, like our cousins, Kylie and Michelle, like put together, and we didn't get to see them because it was Christmas in quarantine. And so we didn't actually get to like see them and sing carols with them and, you know, eat cookies with them like we normally would. And so listeners opening these presents from them by ourselves, and just such thoughtful, like intentional gift giving from these local businesses.
Mhm.
So I really want to, from 2020, like that has inspired me to have this new goal in 2021 to really kind of support local businesses, and not just like the fun ones, not just like, oh, this is a cute like tea shop. Like, yeah, get my tea there, but look for local before I would look for anything else. So like there is a custom framing local place in my city. I did not know that. Someone just told me that, and I was like, I don't often have to get stuff framed. But if I do, I need to then think about, before I go to a big box store, I need to think about, is there someone local that can do this for me? Is there some place local where I can get gardening supplies or other supplies for hobbies? Like we have a local yarn shop. Now their yarn is more expensive, but what am I really investing in? And so really thinking much more intentional about that, because before 2020, I would have told you that I support local businesses, but it was very superficial. And I feel like I need to just like dig deeper in that. And I think that 2020 has given a lot of small businesses the opportunity to sell online.
Mhm.
So I think I need to then, if I can't find it in my own community, is there a small business that I can order from and support them? And thinking about spending my money with those smaller organizations. And some big organizations also support smaller organizations. Like I think you're the one that told me that like Amazon distributes for small businesses. So sometimes if you find something on Etsy and Amazon and it's the same people. They're just using two different ways to distribute it. So I'm not giving up totally on larger companies, but I really would like to shift how I spend my money, in invest more in like my local community and my local small business. So that's like a hobby. You have to like research
Yeah.
that and think about it, and it takes extra time to do those things. But I was like, what am I using my time for anyway? Like I need to use it for those things that are important. So that's one of the things that, I mean, not profound, not like changing the world necessarily, but I think, doing my part to use my small economic impact to improve my own community and improve the lives of those small business owners. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. I would say the last couple days into 2021, nothing has felt urgent. Like I loved that New Year's Day was on a Friday,
Mhm.
because the last couple years I just had to go to work the next day, like on the second. And so it felt like, let's hurry up and celebrate New Year's because we got to get back to life. And I got a couple of extra days off. I had Monday and Tuesday off the week after. So I really felt like 2021 so far has not felt urgent, and that I'm trying to reflect on that feeling. Like instead of like this larger like concept, like how can I live a life that feels a little less hectic and urgent, and how can I take the lessons I've learned from the last year and bring that into 2021 in a really impactful way, because likely in 2021 we will go back to more activity. Even if we don't
Mhm.
go back to a full normal, we're going to go back to, we're not going to be stuck in this deep quarantine the whole year, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's how I started my year too. I like that it was on a Friday too, and I had spent, like, the back half of this year, and if anyone followed me, kind of everywhere, just almost out of a suitcase again. I hadn't been in my apartment in Georgia for, like, a full weekend since the summer, and so I was, like, in a deep state of zen, like, all weekend, to the point that my water broke in the entire area. It wasn't even just, like, where I live, and it didn't matter. I think I talked to you, and you're like, "Well, do you need to go to your friend's house?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm only, like, being half a human this weekend, so, like, I don't, like, need water." And luckily, I buy water like a doomsday prepper, in bulk, so I was safe, like, I had hydration, but, yeah, I was binge watching TV, which is not normally me, so I didn't have to sprint into this year, and that's not typical of any of my years, especially working for the company that I do. I used to have to do these massive events, so it was nice to ease into the year and really spend, if there's any year to reflect, and learn from, I think it was last year and going into this year. Set yourself up for, who you wanna be.
So this is our fun question that we have at the end. So I saw this on a post, I think, I don't know, Facebook post or something like that. And someone was like, what do you think the word of the year for 2020 is? So what do you think the word of the year is, Liz? If you could give
Um,
2020 a word, what do you think it would be?
2020 is almost a standalone word. It will be. It's just there's so many good memes and definitions, and I think I use this isn't going to be the word I select, but in one of my Instagram posts, I even said like, "Oh, that was weird," as like a conclusion. So like, weird would be part of it. But for me, and in all seriousness, looking back on the year, and for everyone, growth would be my year, and really understanding what growth means. It doesn't mean like you know, growth is painful. You have to learn. We looked through a microcosm of a year that like we've never had before in so many different dimensions, and not to get super deep. Um, but there was a lot of things exposed and changed, and how you dealt with a year and what you learned from it and how you grew is so important to setting really everyone up for the next couple years. And so for me, growth was the word of 2020 that I hope everyone felt.
That was super deep. My word is not deep. But I want to talk about growth for a second because I still have this like looming feeling that I like haven't learned the whole lesson, that like I haven't grown the whole
I feel like a
growth
lot
of
of
2020.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have. I know I haven't either. And it's going to be something that I think we're going to have to continue to learn and look through. And if you don't sit and think of like, okay, this is happening, this is how I feel, and this isn't just anxiety related, this could be anything that happened. And it's like, this is how I feel. Why do I feel this way? And if I feel this way or if I react this way, how are other people going to feel? Like, what is the ripple effect? And like, what's the ripple effect of 2020? We get to control that. We get to control our growth. We get to control what we learned and how we react to it. And so I don't think it's like, all right, first day of 2021, we all know everything. That's not it. It's understanding that this was a really painful year, but hopefully the pain grew us into something different.
Yeah, I feel like I don't see that yet though. Like if you're gonna have to get so far away from this period to kind of understand some
Mhm.
of the impact. And I saw some of that reflected on some of the people I follow on Instagram that I don't know, like that are in like the yoga world or the meditation world, like saying like this year feels like it's ending too quickly, which was a lot different than, my friends and family that were like, this year can't be over enough. But their point was like, I feel like I haven't learned the lessons yet. Like, I feel like I don't know. So I feel like you really framed that up nicely by being like, we might have to get a little bit of distance to understand the impact that this has had on us, and to remind us that we also have our own ability to decide what we're going to take from this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that was a
mean,
super deep word. You
New
put that in a very deep way. I did not.
Yeah. Well, I've been in my pajamas for like 5 days thinking. But like New Year's Eve wasn't a graduation. This isn't a pass fail. This wasn't the end. It's a moment in time where there's a spot where you reflect on what you went through, good, bad, and different. And if it was painful, there's growth in that.
So do you want to hear my word?
Yeah.
My word is dedicated to everyone who is working from home. I think the word for 2020 that I have used the most is mute.
Yeah. I
That's
just
my word for 2020.
I just
I never used it before. Like, when did you ever use the word mute before? And now do you use it multiple times a day?
I
Absolutely.
just I abrasively just mute people because you can do it. Like, I just do it for them. Like, "I got you, girl," like, mute. I actually wish people walked around with this button on them in real life and
Mhm.
just been like, you need cut you off."
I saw a meme, this was a while ago, where people were like, what are you gonna like take from the pandemic, and they were like telling people to mute themselves.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think like mute has really seen its glory day this year. Like, it was not a word you used very often, and now you're telling people to mute yourself. You're like, oh, sorry, I was on mute. Oh, wait, let me mute myself. Like, my dog's barking, I'm muting myself. Like, the word mute has been used about 1 billion times more than it
Oh,
was ever used before 2020, and I kind of just appreciate the lightheartedness of thinking like, of all the things in 2020, Mute really saw its glory days.
It really did. It became head of the class for sure. Like, oh, sorry, I was on mute while I'm like exiting out of TikTok and coming off mute.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a ride for sure.
It has. Yeah, and friends, we just want to wish you a happy new year. Liz, what are we going to expect in this year from this podcast? This is an exciting thing for me that we're going to be doing. You Should Ask My Sister in 2021. My hope is that people ask us questions so that we can talk about what people want us to talk about. But
so I did get a question. We're not going to address it in this podcast, but it'll help us segue into or drag us into the conversation.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to use the word drag. I don't know. I don't know. I'm in my pajamas for 4 days too. I don't know why I used the word drag. I'm sorry.
No, I'm totally kidding. But segue into like what to expect in the coming weeks. But one of my friends, and dead serious, was like, well, when is the podcast about compost? And I was like, well, you got to ask someone who composts because it's not me.
We compost. Yes. Yeah.
So Steph does, and I feel like we'll be able to get into maybe some hobbies, tips and tricks. I do want to say that we've spent the last couple of weeks, which we've loved hearing the comments and the people that have listened and enjoyed. A lot of it has been really lighthearted, just chatting, just purposely, because wrapping up this year was a difficult one. And so I think we're going to get into some deeper conversations, speaking of growth, but a little bit deeper into like who we are and what has built us into the people we are today. I think learning from other people's scars or situations and understanding what developed their character is really important. So there'll be some topics that reach into that. What do you think?
I think we need to talk about dirt. I think we need to talk about compost. Yeah, I'm excited that someone asked that question. I think I'd like to talk a little bit about women's leadership. We have a huge milestone coming up here in a couple weeks where we will have the first woman vice president. So that's pretty monumental in 2021, regardless of political party. I know there's a lot of political unrest still, and there's a lot of political division, but women on both sides have run, and women that were unaffiliated have run, and this is something really cool that I'm really looking forward to. We also got a question about birding, so we may talk about the hobby of birding, because that's something else that I do. Melissa doesn't do it. No. I was going to say that we do, but she does not do it.
Maybe someone else could take my spot for those.
We can talk about the hobby of hoverboarding. I don't know. I would also
art of hoverboarding.
The art of hoverboarding, Melissa's art. I would also really like to talk about football. I was like, this is an exciting playoff season that we're going into. You and I are both football fans and both feminists. So I think that can seem like an oxymoron. So I think we need to do a podcast about football and feminism, because there's a lot we could unpack there.
Yeah, and I love a good sports fan, regardless of the sport. And so a lot of my friends down here are big sports fans, and I love that. I love embracing that. So yeah, I'll talk me some football. The Browns just made the playoffs for the first time since 2002. So
yeah, first time in 17 years.
Yeah,
it's exciting. It's exciting. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Browns too. I mean, as I sit here in my Baldwin Wallace University shirt, I lived in Cleveland. Melissa lived outside of Cleveland when we went to college. So I'm excited for them. They're not my team, but I'm excited.
Yeah, well, same. It's so weird that our house is so divided. Steph is a Steelers fan. I'm a Browns fan, but we both simultaneously really respect and enjoy the other team.
We lived in those cities. I think it's hard to live it's hard for me to have lived in Cleveland and have friends that still live there and really diss on that team. I don't like to diss on teams anyway, but it's really hard for me to diss on that team because I lived there as part of that community. I also lived in Pittsburgh. So like I feel like we're all, look at this, like we all are like, yeah, we're gonna talk about some football.
Yeah.
So get ready, friends.
Are you ready
We're
for
gonna
some
bring that
football?
into 2021, and we're gonna talk about what you want to talk about. So let's tell them how they can ask us questions.
Yeah, so we do have a YouTube channel, which is You Should Ask My Sister. That's where we post all the podcasts, and then I send it out through social media. But if you subscribe to the page, you actually hear it before I send it out, which has happened for a lot of people, which is always funny for us. You can also find us on Instagram. My handle is Lissy_Erdis, and Steph's is woman_in the wild. And you can direct message us. You can reply to the post. We love your comments. We love ideas of any podcast, of any question. We just like to hear from you.
Friends, thank you so much for listening. We wish you the best 2021, but you're already the best, according to Melissa.
Yes,
So,
there you go.
so this is just you continuing
Yeah.
your bestness into the new year. Thank you so much for listening. Happy New Year. This is You Should Ask My Sister with Stephanie and Melissa Erdis.